Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is JAMB Tutorials. Today's video is the fourth episode of our series on Wuthering by Bronte. It's actually the last episode. If you want to watch the previous ones, let me know in the comment section so I can give you the links. In the last episode, I stopped at chapter 25, so today I'm going to start from chapter 26. During summer, Edgar permitted Kathy to meet with Linton on the crossroad. On getting there, they did not find Linton but a boy who was sent to ask them to come further. They immediately advanced to Wuthering Heights, where they met Linton close to Wuthering Heights and sitting beside a hearth. He was very sick and thin. Then Kathy and Nellie were very worried for his health. 10 minutes later, Kathy wanted to go back to the ground since she couldn't figure out why Linton wanted to see her. But Linton encouraged her to spend more 30 minutes with him. Kathy obliged, and he fell asleep in her laps. Nellie and Kathy argued over the real condition of Linton's health because Linton told them he was fairly in good health and would not want them to tell Mr. Edgar that he is very much ill. As they argued, he woke up and asked if someone called his name. When Kathy said no, he said he felt he heard his father's voice. As Mr. Heathcliff approached, Linton became very scared. Kathy and Nellie hastily left, promising to repeat their visit the next week. Mr. Edgar inquired how their meeting went, and they gave him a sketchy account of the meeting. Chapter 27. The next week, Kathy met Linton on the same spot they had met. Linton asked why she came when her father was sick, and this made Kathy very angry, and she wanted to go back. Linton begged her not to go, and he consented to his father's ploy. When she inquired to know what his father's ploy was, Linton couldn't tell, out of fear for what his father would do to him. Heathcliff approached and inquired from Nellie how ill Mr. Edgar was and when he was going to possibly die. Linton obeyed his father's instructions, tricked Kathy to follow her into Wuthering Heights. When they entered, Mr. Heathcliff locked the door and beat up Kathy, who tried to snatch the keys from him. After he left them locked in the house, Linton confessed that his father's plan was to keep them there till tomorrow, and by tomorrow the two of them would get married, and she would then take him to the Grange. Kathy and Nellie tried to escape but couldn't find any means, so they remained there till the next day, and Nellie stayed there for 5 days, with Harriet and bringing food every day. Chapter 28. On the 5th day, Zillah, Worthy Heart's housekeeper, came back and met Nellie in her room and told her that it was rumored that she had been lost in the marsh, and Mr. Heathcliff told her that he found her and took her to Wuthering Heights. Nellie vowed to dispel the falsehood and went to look for her mistress, Kathy. She met Linton, who was busy sucking a stick of sugar cane. Nellie asked of Kathy, and Linton narrates how she has been severely beaten by Mr. Heathcliff and divulged his indifference to her suffering. She asked Linton to open the door of their chamber so she could see Kathy, but he refused. Then Nellie went to the Grange and told the dying Mr. Edgar that Kathy will be returning very soon, and also about her marriage to Linton. Then Mr. Edgar devised that what his enemy wants is to secure his property for himself. He then sent for his attorney, who delayed till the next day. The servants Nellie sent to Wuthering Heights came back without Kathy, and as she made to go back to Wuthering Heights with the servants, Kathy returned on her own, and she made her wash her face before going to meet her father, and also advised her not to mention the bad things that has happened to her and the bad disposition of Linton to him in order not to make him worse than he is. She agreed. Mr. Edgar died, leaning on Kathy's arm. In the morning, the attorney, Mr. Green, came with instructions of how to bury Mr. Edgar and almost made them not to bury him beside his wife, Catherine, until Nellie protested and he was buried beside Catherine. After the funeral, Catherine narrates how she escaped from Wuthering Heights. Chapter 29. Kathy and Nellie were in the library. Then Mr. Heathcliff enters and orders Kathy to pack her things and move to Wuthering Heights. Then Nellie begged Heathcliff to let Kathy bring Nathan to the Grange and live there with him, since he hates to see the both of them. But Heathcliff refused because he wants to rent out the Grange. He narrates how he bribed the sexton and how he was allowed to open Catherine's coffin. Then Catherine returns with her clothes and they leave for Wuthering Heights. Chapter 30. Nellie visits Wuthering Heights and meets Zillah, Wuthering Heights housekeeper, who tells her of what has happened in Wuthering Heights. According to her, Kathy is hurt because when she arrived, she did not greet anyone, but went straight to Linton's room. In the morning, she asked for a doctor to be sent for very ill Linton, but Heathcliff said his life is not worth a farthing and won't spend a farthing on him. She begged Zillah to help her, but she refused because she was already tired of nursing Linton and doesn't want to disobey Heathcliff. The next day, Linton died, and Joseph was made to evacuate his body from the room. Kathy locked herself up in the room for 2 weeks and nobody came to see her except the day Heathcliff went to show her the documents Linton had already signed, transferring all her property to him. According to Zillah, she is now very poor, or even poorer than she is, and as a result couldn't do anything about it. After 2 weeks, Kathy came down to sit beside the fireplace. She snubbed everyone who tried offering her a seat and took a seat away from them. She looked around the room and tried getting a book, but her hand couldn't reach it. Then Harrington helped her as she began reading the book. Harrington was looking at her and at a point touched her hair. Kathy rebuked him, and Harrington asked Zillah to tell Kathy to read to them, but Kathy refused to read to them. Chapter 31. Mr. Lockwood visits Wuthering Heights to tell Heathcliff he would be vacating the house with no intention of returning it, as he would be going back to London. When he entered Wuthering Heights, he gave a letter from Nellie to Kathy. Then Harrington seized it until she managed to get it back from him and reads it. When she heard it was from Nellie, Mr. Lockwood asked for a reply for Nellie, and she said she would write her when she could because at the present she doesn't have anything to write with, as Mr. Heathcliff, who does not read, has destroyed every book she came to Wuthering Heights with. The only books available were the ones Harrington kept away to himself to help him learn reading. Kathy derided his words pronunciation and mocked him for not being able to read. Harrington sadly burns the books, and Kathy was also mad at that. When Mr. Heathcliff enters, Kathy leaves the living room, and Harrington had already gone out after burning the books. Mr. Lockwood told him of his intentions, and Mr. Heathcliff told him that he was not going to pay him for the months he would not occupy the Grange. Mr. Lockwood said he wasn't interested in him paying for those months. Then he had dinner with them and left. Chapter 32. Months later, Lockwood had a job to do close to Gimmerton, so he used the opportunity to visit his old environment. He went to the Grange and met a new housekeeper who became unsettled and began tidying up his apartment. While the housekeeper occupied herself with the work, he set off to Wuthering Heights and noticed that so many things have changed. He met Nellie at the kitchen, who told him that Heathcliff is dead and how Harrington and Catherine became lovers, including Harrington now being able to read through the aid of Kathy. At the end, she thanked Lockwood for not making advances at Kathy because she is happy that Kathy and Harrington will soon be married. Chapter 33. Nellie narrates how Kathy confronted Heathcliff over the injustice done to her and Harrington. Kathy had asked Harrington to clear a few shrubs as she wishes to plant some flowers there. Among the things that were cut down were Joseph's black currant shrub. As they sat to have dinner, Kathy stayed close to Harrington and teased him until he laughed, and Heathcliff became angry, thinking Kathy was the one that laughed. Then Joseph appeared, complaining of his black currant shrub that has been cut down. Heathcliff was mad at Harrington's actions, but Kathy said she asked him to do it and questioned why it was a big deal for him to give him some portion of her land and money that he had stolen from her. Also threatens to reveal to Hareton what Heathcliff did to his father. Then there was a scuffle and Heathcliff held Cathy's hair, but later he let her go. One day, as he came in through the door, he saw Cathy and Hareton studying. He ordered them out of the room. He told Nelly that he was tired of destroying for nothing, and that he just realized that all this while he has been working for the good of his enemies. Heathcliff began to live in solitude and muttered some terrible things as he paced around the room. Chapter 34. And this is the last chapter of the novel. Hareton was working in Cathy's garden when Cathy went to the gate to get some plants for the garden. She saw Heathcliff, who has been away since yesterday, looking unusually happy. Heathcliff's happy countenance endured for 4 days, to the surprise of everyone. For 4 days he could not eat nor drink. Whenever he makes attempt to eat, he would suddenly be withdrawn and get distracted by an unseen image. Mr. Heathcliff realized he was going to die soon and wished he could make all his property vanish from the surface of the earth, and said he hasn't written a will and does not know who to bequeath his property to. He wanted to call the barrister Mr. Green, but later changed his mind. He also told Nelly how he would be buried, except she does not believe in ghosts. He died in his chamber, with rain pouring on his body through the open window of his room. Nelly was the first to see him, and he had a smiling face, with eyes and teeth open. Hareton was the only one who grieved over him. He was buried as he wished. Nelly reports that the village folks say they usually see him walking around with a woman. Even a boy also narrates of how he saw him with a woman. Nelly doesn't believe in all of that, but told Lockwood that Hareton and Cathy will be moving to the Grange once they get married. Wuthering Heights will be left for Joseph and the wandering ghosts of Heathcliff and Catherine. Like I told you, this is the last episode of our series on this novel, Wuthering Heights. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, let me know in the comment section so I can give you the links. Please subscribe to the channel, click on the like button and share the video to your friends. Thank you very much for watching and see you very soon in another video. Bye for now.